My name is Sonny Liew. I'm a cartoonist. I've been drawing comics for a long time. So The Art of Chye is a book about Singapore's history told through the lens of a fictional comic artist called Chye. We announced the book in 2012 and it was released in 15, so it was a 3-year gap, but I had the idea a few years ago, like way before it was actually announced. I was reading books on comics, like history of comics, and I realized that whenever you talked about a comic book, you had to understand it within the context of its history, where it came from, when it was created. So I thought it'd be interesting to flip that around and explore Singapore's history through a comics history, except you create a fictional one to make it more interesting. So the history side, I think, is as well researched as I can make it. All the facts about history and all the stories about the Singapore story, I think, are factual. On the biography side of Charlie Chan, that's a mixture of different biographies. So most of it is based on some kind of real experience, I think, whether it's mine or other people's. So the idea behind the book was to create a fictional artist, and part of that illusion was to create a body of work that was convincing enough that this could be a real person. So that involved trying to create comics, paintings, sketches of different mediums, different feels, different looks, and sort of archive his material, whether it's like photographs of his family or paintings of himself and family members. There was the research, there was the thumbnailing, the story structure, all that was kind of hard to get a handle on all the information and make it work as a narrative. And then the drawing itself, because it involves a lot of different styles. Every time you come to a new section, you have to draw a new style. I wouldn't be sure I could pull it off until I actually did it. But aside from history, I think the book also is about comics history and celebration of the medium. So I think people who are, even if they don't really care much about Singapore history or are not from Singapore, they should be able to at least get a sense of comics itself. I think I too try to celebrate all the comics that I myself enjoy within that story. I had to do a timeline of Singapore's history and a timeline of comics history, trying to figure out what could match up in each era. You had to find out what existed then, as well as which kind of comic would fit best the narrative that was required to tell the Singapore history. Initially, it was a lot of reading of books, history textbooks and other accounts, both the mainstream versions and some alternative, so-called revisionist ones. There's more to our history than what you see in the mainstream Singapore story. We use the word revisionist a lot, but I see it as more inclusive because I think it's a richer version, a more complex version of history than what we get. Which is important because if you're supposed to learn from history, then it has to be the more complex version, otherwise it's just not going to give us the actual lessons that it's supposed to teach us. So the most surprising thing I think is the feedback from parents when they tell me that their kids as young as 10 to 12 have actually read and enjoyed the book. I thought that the book would be aimed at a slightly older audience. I've been very pleasantly surprised that kids find something in it that they enjoy. Some people say this is the only comic I've read. If it spurs them to read more comics, that'd be a great thing. And some of them do go on to read other graphic novels. Andrew's work I enjoy. I think he's a very good comic artist, storyteller. So is Chye. Sinner's Bicycle I thought was really good. I'm looking forward to the sequel, which should have happened a long time ago but hasn't. I'm not sure why. The only thing I can say is that for creators ourselves, all we can do is make interesting work and let things happen from there, I think.